So I had experiences with ETs as a child growing up. You know, before I had ever been introduced into, you know, as an innocent child, I'm having experiences with positive beings. You know, I'm pure and innocent. Like, this has to do with no choices I've made in life. It's just my soul contract. I came in having benevolent contact with beings. And so this is a phenomenon that happened. The benevolence do interface with people, okay? Because I've heard some people make statements that, oh, the benevolence aren't allowed to intervene in our world. And it's like, well, when I was talking about this free will issue, how they can't come in and just like save us from our own karma and our own destruction, yes, but they can absolutely contact certain people, and certain people are actually from the stars incarnated here. And so as I'm going through my awakening later in life and having contact with the star people once again, you know, having researched different religions, like I never grew up religious or anything, but the words of Christ always resonated with me. I was like, yeah, that, you know, the heart center, that obviously is the way. And all the things he said, I'm just like, yeah, I resonate with Christ's teachings 100%. But as far as what the church has done with it, it's an inversion. Okay. And then when it ties into the Old Testament and all that, and it's really describing two beings that are playing the role of God, but neither of them are God. Okay. It's just different layers along the way. And I'll get into all that. But what I'm saying is, when I first started having interface with these beings, I asked them, I'm like, so what do you think about Christ? And every time I would say Christ, they would light up and flash and like blast this love energy at me and fly by. And they were basically like, yes, he was a real being, and yes, we're aligned with him. And that like made me feel solid and feeling something out that like I had a lot of questions about, like, what is this phenomenon I'm experiencing, right? And so I was like, yeah, I don't want to interface with anything that doesn't align with Christ. And so, and this has nothing to do with the church in like a religious biblical sense. This is kind of separate. And so through my experiences and the knowledge that I've gained, I've realized that Mother Mary, which is a facet of, you know, the divine feminine, the goddess, is from Lyra. She's from Lyra, and so is the Christ lineage, okay? Because they had to have these 12-strand crystalline genetics to hold this amount of consciousness to be birthed into this world, because it would just blow out the synapses of a normal human with this 2-strand DNA. And so as my experiences continued, I started having direct interface with many different facets of the Divine Mother, okay, because she is an aspect of creator. There's father, mother, creator, okay, and they both play their roles here, and they're both multifaceted. Like, people want to put a name to it, right? They want to put like oh, it's this, or it's that, or it's this being. It's just like, no, this being is so powerful that it's beyond form, and it splits off into polarity, and it plays all these different roles of the Godhead, and branches out and fractalizes, and it plays all these different roles. Okay, and that being said, like, we're a fractal of that creator spark as well. Okay, and so it's all interconnected. And so learning about these connections to the star people that I was having interface with, to religions, seeing that how it was interconnected, I started to research and look into these things and realize that we've been fed a lie, okay? Like, there's truths in these religions of the past, and they started out legit, but they've been changed over time for control and by negative beings, and how it all goes back to the Anunnaki, okay? And originally they're from Lyra, okay? And I've got into this before, and how the wars came and they spread out through the solar system or through the galaxy to different star systems, you know. And so a long time ago they came here, and you know, from many different places, but the origin is Lyra. Like, for instance, the blue beings like Krishna and Shiva and all that, that stems from the Maharishi race, which goes back to Sirius. Okay, and so they play a role in setting this Earth school up, and it you know, as well as the Pleiades and so on and so on, and like some of the most recent ones who came, who are part of the fallen ones. Part of it is fallen, not all of it. Goes back to the beings from Nibiru, but they're originally from Lyra as well. So it's a very similar genetics all the way around. Okay. And so some of the most, or some of the least tampered with teachings that contain the most truths still would be, you know, Hinduism and the different Vedic teachings, Tibetan Buddhism, and then we take a look at you know, the most recent religions, as well as some of the Norse teachings as well. Okay, but there's been some alterations to that over time. But then we take a look at the most recent teachings when we get into Christianity and the Abrahamic religions, okay? And that being said, there's some gems in the Bible, right? There's some truths in there. There's some amazing things in there. Okay, and then there's some things that do not resonate. And you're like, well, what is this? Because this contradicts itself in many different places. And so you start to look further and you realize that the Bible is a collection of passages of many different texts that have been handpicked over time and certain ones left out, you know, and there's all these ancient texts, the Atrahasis, the Enuma Elish, the Dead Sea Scrolls fit into this, and it goes into the Sumerian tablets, right? The Epic of Gilgamesh and all this stuff, and it's just like it all starts to tie together and paint this bigger picture. And then you see that the Bible is just a collection of different hand-picked things that have been altered and names changed to create their version of what happened. And so, and then you look at, and this ties back to Rome, which our current society is like a modern day Rome, and you can see this symbolism everywhere. Okay. And so they can't trick someone by putting a whole bunch of lies in front of your face. It's got to be, you know, 90% truths, and then they throw a twist in there, or else no one would fall for it, right? So you got to learn discernment and look through things. And like I was saying, when you really start to look into the Old Testament, you realize that there's two different beings, and they're describing it all as the actions of one being, and one of them is positive and one of them is negative. And then you look at the name Jesus, and so the letter J didn't even exist until hundreds of years after his life and death. His real name was Yeshua, okay? And so, and I've had interface with him, okay? And what the church has done is just It's not the way. It's already written in your heart, okay? And that's what he's shown me as well. And so if you're stuck through any form of dogma, if you're stuck in a box through any form of religious dogma, you're not going to see the bigger picture. You're going to have to think for yourself, okay? And some of these beings that started religions are positive, okay? They're amazing. And they're teachers, okay? And like I was saying, they started this Earth School, and then they left groups to oversee it. And since then, there was a major fall, which these beings have shown me. They've shown me all about the fall. Okay, and this is a long video if I get into the fall and the different intricacies of that and what I've been shown and what other people have been shown and how it all links up together. And the thing is, like, I didn't research any of that knowledge. That was shown to me directly through spirit. Okay, and you can see it in the world today. It's everywhere. It's right in front of your face. Okay, we're still dealing with the impacts of that. The fall back in ancient Egypt. And so all like, if you take the gems out of all these different religions, they are all talking about the same thing. And there's amazing stuff in there, okay? And it can teach you. But there's also a trick and a twist thrown in there if you get stuck in the dogma. All right? And so some of the most recent religions, like the Abrahamic religions, have been highly altered. And then it goes back to Marduk, which is the one in control right now, who I've met before, and it was not a good experience. And so this is kind of the situation on our planet right now. Okay, but that being said, like, none of these beings are God. Even the positive ones, they're just teachers. All right? Because I've met Source. I've met Source Creator. I've gone out of body. I've met Source Creator. And it's beyond form. Okay, and that being said, there's different facets along the way. And so some of these beings, like the positive ones, they're different facets along the way of this Earth School. They're teachers. Okay, but what we're going to realize eventually is that I come from Creator Source. So do you. I've experienced this. We all do. Okay, and we forgot who we are. We have that divine spark of Creator within us. And this is beyond form. It's beyond polarity. It's beyond male, female, light, dark, any of that. Okay, and then when it steps into this universe, it splits in two, because polarity is the mathematical equation of this universe, and it splits into Father, Mother, Creator, and you can see those aspects fractalized out through everything, and it shows itself in many different ways, like through different beings who I've met before and had life reviews from, and it goes into like the sun, the light shining out, streaming from Source, which is the consciousness, the DNA, the consciousness, the awareness, and then Mother Earth, the physicality. Right? And so these aspects can be fractalized all the way back until Prime Creator Source, where it's this point of oneness, and what's around it is the cosmic womb, the primordial void, you know? And so when it comes all the way back down into this earth, there's a whole bunch of beings that are trying to play God. Some of them are positive, but they're not saying they're God, they're just teachers. And then some of them are negative, and they're saying, I am God. I'm the one who created all of this. Worship me, all this stuff. And that's where it gets twisted up, okay? And that's when it gets into dogma, and you got to run things through your own filter and learn discernment, okay? And so along the way of our journey, we're going to experience a dark night of the soul. Okay, we're going to experience light and dark. This is inevitable. Okay, and this scares a lot of people back into religions because the masses think that this is it, right? And they don't know better. And it's scary. There's been times along the way where I've questioned everything and been like, whoa, what is going on? I don't know who's who. And I've had to work through it. Okay. And there's been times where I have faced the darkness head on, like some seriously powerful beings. I've had to face myself, and my guides were not there. My protection was not there. And I got my ass kicked, like literally, energetically. It took me like 18 months to recover from this one experience. Like it fucked me up bad. And afterwards I was like, they all came and I was like, where were you? Like, you're just going to let me have to face that thing head on? And they're like, you did good. I was like, that could have killed me. They're like, you got to go through initiations. You got to go through these tests, you know? And looking back in hindsight, I grew from that. It made me stronger. It forged who I am. Because if I would be calling on them for protection and not aware that I can handle this, I can face whatever because I have creator spark within me, I wouldn't have recognized my power. And I would still be going external. You know, like our guides and all this stuff are great. They're family. They're amazing. But they're going to teach you that everything's within. It's all written within. The whole universe is within. And it's all mental. This whole thing is mental. And so, meaning it's all awareness, okay? And we have the lower mind and then the higher mind, which is the one consciousness that encompasses all consciousness. And we are a fractal of that, of creator source. And so we're way down here in polarity in these dense dimensions. And there are imposter spirits, and there's a whole mix of things, okay? And so now I'd like to get into the type of the categories of beings that I've experienced. So I've met Prime Creator Source, which is outside of this universe, outside of form, and the words cannot begin to explain how powerful this is. How much love, how much light, how much unity. Like it's beyond words. It's everything and nothing simultaneously, and it's eternal. And there's no separation. And we are of that. And that is what we're tapping into. Okay, all these beings along the way, they can be teachers and they can play roles in our awakening and all this stuff. But what we're going to realize is that this is the Hall of Mirrors. Prime Creator Source is playing all roles all at once. And until you become self-realized, you're going to be going external. And that's not it, right? And so something came to mind that I'd like to speak on before I get into that whole tangent. So all the Vedic teachings, Tibetan Buddhism teachings, it's all about self-realization. Okay, it's all about, mastering oneself and becoming aware of all this stuff and realizing that you're a fractal of creator source and all this, right? And it's truth. And when Christ was here in his life, in his years where he disappeared, he was in India. He was training with the masters. He was being taught. Okay, and then he came back here, a fully awakened, embodied being, to play his role. Okay, and when he talks about his father, he's not referring to the Old Testament. He's referring to Father, Mother, Creator, and those different fractals. Okay, and so yes, that's what I was going to say. So then, sorry I'm jumping around from thing to thing. I don't rehearse these videos. I'm going off memory. I'm going off the downloads I get, and I'm explaining them. And so I had this other experience, which was like part of these initiations in Dark Night of the Soul, where I was going to get some paint at a store. And like I'm sober, fully sober, just like normal waking consciousness, and something weird. I'm standing in line and some energy comes over me and I can't shake it. And I'm like, whoa, something is not right. This is not okay. And I'm trying to clear it, trying to shake it. And I'm driving home, and this is like a half hour later and it will not leave. And I'm just like, all right, this is not okay. I'm dealing with something extremely dark that's trying to attack me. And like, and it progresses and gets worse and worse and worse. And I'm trying all these clearings and it won't leave, and nothing will shake this thing. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on? You know, and then I get pulled out of my body at a certain point, and I'm looking down at myself, like sitting there on the floor, and I see these two entities standing next to me, like over me, and casting their like fucking dark bullshit onto me. And man, just the memory of this is traumatic. But like these were the fallen Elohim council. Like these are one of the highest layers of darkness. Like, man, and they were throwing this energy at me that was like 10,000 years of torture of souls trapped in like the most hellish. It's just, I can't describe how evil this thing was. It was heartless. It was pure evil, and it was throwing this energy at me. And if I could go the rest of all my lifetimes ever without experiencing, you know, even a second of that energy, because it's literally timeless, so a second feels like eternity, like I'll do whatever I have to do to avoid that. Because this is pure evil. These are the hell realms that these beings control, and they're throwing this energy at me, and I can't shake it. And I'm like, what is happening? And then I'm thinking at a certain point, I'm like, I don't deserve this. Like I've never done anything wrong. Like I'm a good person. Like why is this happening? And I'm trying all the clearing practices that I know, and nothing will shake them. And then all of a sudden, this golden stream of energy lights up and shines on me, and I'm illuminated by this golden light, and I can see all of life. Like my whole field's lighting up thinking about this. I can see all of life, all creation, you know, plants, animals, people, the awake people, the asleep people, even like bad people. Like they're still alive. They still have that God spark within them, in comparison to something that is like worse than demonic. Like it is heartless and soulless. It just wants to devour. And this is the fallen Elohim council with the infection. Like this is beyond darkness. This is, oof. And anyway, I saw creation, and I'm just like, oh my God, it's all sacred. Like, even the things I don't like or the people I don't like, I'm like, they're still alive. They're a fractal of creation, and it's absolutely sacred. And the contrast between life and something beyond death, pure evil, my heart just blasted open. And I was just like, I fucking have lost all judgment. I forgive everything. Like all life is absolutely sacred. And that energy, that golden energy, just burst from my heart and blasted these fucking demons back for wherever they came from. And and then all my guides showed up, and all these beings and all these orbs and the Arcturians and the Elohim Council, like the whole crew showed up, and it was just like, and the whole energy lifted up, and it was amazing, like for hours. And I'm just having all this interface, interdimensional, and I'm just like, oh my God, and integrating all these teachings. And so that energy that I experienced, and that came through my heart, which wasn't external, that is the Christ consciousness. Okay, and so the beings that hold this energy, the Christ being one of them, and the true Christos guardians, like this is the core of my teachings. This is ascension. This is this golden stream of energy. This is the way. Okay, it's through the heart. It's through unity consciousness and oneness and love and light. Like this is the way out of this realm. And also you have to be self-realized and realize that it's all interconnected. And so it's a mix of self-realization and the Christ consciousness. It's both. These are the keys to ascension. This is what I have experienced. And so now to get into the types of beings. Okay, so we have prime creator source, and we have the formless ones. We have ones that are outside of this universe. They're not even in form. They're high dimensional beings, like 13 and above. I talk to them, I have interface with them, and then take it up a notch. It goes directly to prime creator source, which is what I've tapped into, and all these levels along the way as well. They all play their role. Okay. And so number one, you have to be connected to prime creator source, and that connection is also within. It's external and internal simultaneously. It's a paradox. Okay. And the paradox is the key to seeing multidimensional, because you'll see, it's like things don't make linear sense. You know, it's like, yes, it's this, but it's also this, but it's also neither of them, but it's also both of them. And it's all valid and invalid simultaneously. And you're like, how does that make sense? Well, it does if you're fifth dimensional and have 360-degree vision and you see that time's circular and everything's malleable. But if you're down here in the illusion of 3D linear time and polarity, it doesn't make sense. And so you have to wrap your head around paradoxical reality to see multidimensional. All right. So that being said, we have the high dimensional ones, we have the formless ones. Then it steps down to all these different dimensional beings along the way, which there's different angelic consciousness, there's different ET consciousness, and at a certain level, it's one of the same. It's an interchangeable term. Like some of these beings that you see in the sky, they're not in ships; they're in Merkaba form. Okay, that they can just travel through their own soul. They don't even have bodies. Some of them are like, well, I'll take a body to try to relate to you because you're in form, but they don't need a body. They're just consciousness. Okay. And so that's a thing too. And okay. And I interface with this quite a bit. Okay. And so you step down the layers, you have all these different forms of consciousness. Once it gets below the fifth, now you're dealing with fourth dimensional stuff, and there's a whole mix of stuff that's in there, and a lot of it's evil. Like the fourth dimension is huge, okay? So it's something that we can't bypass, and it overlaps our third dimension. So we have to learn to protect ourselves going through the fourth dimension and how to master this reality. And so this is where the dark night of the soul comes in, because it's making us take our power back. We can't just like bypass this stuff and call in higher beings and like bypass this school. We can't, that's not how it works. Okay. And so you're here to do the work. You're here to become self-realized. And so then you know, we have these beings that oversee this earth school, and they range in dimensional layers from the fourth, you know, up to the fifth and so on. And it's hard to put an exact dimensional layer on them, because they can change dimensions and play whatever role they want as well, like the benevolent ones can. Okay. Like in my interface with Shiva, he's teaching me all this stuff and unity conscious and showing me that like he is everything, and including me. He's like, it's all one thing. We're playing all these different roles and teaching me all this wisdom. And he's like, but I'm just playing a role of a teacher down here in these layers of this earth school. And I already know that because I've experienced that, but he's not bullshitting me in any form of way. You know, like these other beings that are trying to like corrupt these religions and be like, I created all of this. I'm the God. You should worship no other gods than me, when you're admitting that there's other gods. It's like something doesn't add up here, you know? And so you got to really look at things and discern things. And that being said, there's real versions of beings, and then there's imposter ones of them too. So just because you encounter Shiva doesn't mean that you're going to encounter the real one. You got to run it through your own BS filter. And that's written inside your heart. Okay, so we have the benevolent beings, the original ones, the teachers. Then we have the fallen ones. And this also encompasses like when I was having contact many years ago and getting familiar with all this stuff, I met all these different galactic beings, and they were amazing, and I was thinking it was all good. And then at a certain point, they started telling me, okay, you can't be relying upon our interface so much and calling upon us so much. You need to start to learn to talk to us by going in through meditation instead of looking in the sky and visually seeing us and all this stuff. And I kind of started to back up a little bit, and I was like, no, what are you doing? Where are you going? And then, like, they started to show back up, I thought, right? But they were, like, closer in altitude and a little different, and something felt a little off, but I wasn't sensitive enough to figure out what was happening at that point. And so this whole imposter scenario played itself out. They're acting like the same ones, acting like the good ones. And then at a certain point, I can sense something's not quite right, and I'm starting to get information that's conflicting, and I'm just like, this has never happened before. And I'm starting to gain my sensitivity, and I'm just like, wait a second, are there two groups of beings up here? And the Arcturians in the distance flashed, and we're like, yep. And then I'm seeing these other beings that are closer in altitude playing their role, and that's when I realized, holy shit, there's a whole imposter scenario playing itself out here. And so, like, the benevolent ones are all around, and they're generally further in altitude. At least it used to be this way. And it still is. A lot of it's been cleaned up, but it used to be worse. And then these lower beings that are tied in with our government that are impostering the good ones. Okay, and this would be the Galactic Federation of Light, which is an imposter group of beings that are trying to play the role of the Galactic Federation of Free Worlds to try to tie people into their bullshit and corrupt them, right? And then eventually when it all hits the fan, then they get scared and run to a religion or something like that, okay? Do you think the darkness isn't intelligent? You think it's not going to mimic the real thing and try to throw a wrench in your program? No, they're very, very intelligent and deserve respect for what they do because they do it well. That being said, if we tap into our true power, we're more powerful, we have more wisdom, and we can overcome this stuff. But it's not external. It's all written within. So we have the Galactic Federation of Free Worlds, which is a vast dimensional array of beings going all the way up into the formless, into Creator Source, that are benevolent and here to assist humanity through this awakening and healing and to our liberation and freedom. But we got to take control and claim our birthright and claim our power and claim our sovereignty. Okay? That's what this whole thing's about. We have to claim our sovereignty and stop consenting. So we have the benevolence, then we have the mimicking programs and the fallen ones and the imposter spirits and all that stuff. And this ties into the beings that are tied into our government, which would be different factions of greys, different insectoids, different reptilian beings. Okay, and the infection is spread in them quite a bit. And so then we look at the darkness as a whole. And you basically got two different categories of the darkness. You have the organic darkness and the infection. All right. And to try to describe this, I will explain a situation which I've talked about before, where I've met dark beings that literally played a role and pushed me into the light and into my awakening. And there's just one time I was on the medicine, and I see this entity that had been messing with me for a long time, and I knew it, and I was just like, that's you. Now I can see you fully, you know, because I'm multidimensional and lit wide, you know, my whole field's lit up. I can see you clearly. And I was just like, look, man, we've gone back and forth so much. Like, I got nothing left for you. I got no fear. I got no anger. Like, I got nothing to give you. I'm done. Like, we're not playing this game anymore. I'm like, all I got for you is unconditional love because you're a demon and you're fucked up and I feel sorry for you. And it looked at me and nodded and smiled and was just like, he's finally got it. And then left. And I was like, whoa, interesting. Okay. And then the next night in ceremony, and I'd done combo prior to this first ceremony, and then I did combo again the next morning without eating, going into the next night of ceremony. So like I hadn't eaten anything except medicine for like 48 hours, and I went deep. Anyway, I had this like such a powerful experience, like blasted wide open, and I'm laying there integrating everything that just happened, just like profound, just integrating. I'm just like, oh my God, how could it get any more intense? I just experienced I was shown so much. I was shown ascension. I was shown the whole earth trap and all this stuff, and just lit up. And oh man, just my DNA was activated like on a whole new level. I was integrating some serious upgrades that came. And then I'm laying there, and these group of 5 dark beings surround me. But like, if you look in ancient Vedic artwork and paintings, you'll see, light beings, and you'll see beings that are all dark, but they have like glowing jewelry and like a third eye lit up and different things on them that are lit up. And so they're kind of light and dark at the same time, but they're dark. They're playing the role of the dark, and they surround me. And I was just like, what do you want? Like, I'm not in any condition to deal with this right now. And they're like, no, we're not here for that. We're not here to harm you or play this polarity game. They're like, you've passed your tests, and we're here to remove the blocks and limitations that we've placed upon you. And well, first they said, we're here to heal you. And I was like, well, I'm not looking for any healing for dark beings. And then they said, no, you pass your test. We're here to remove the blocks and limitations that we placed upon you. And before I could answer, I was just trying to like comprehend all this. I'm just like, what? And then they start removing all these energetic limitations and chains and things that they placed upon me, and literally heal me and then leave. And I was just like, oh my God. They literally play a role. They're teachers. And that's when I realized, oh, the night before when I said I have nothing left for you but unconditional love, it was actually true, because I felt love for these beings. And I was like, wow, the darkness is a valid part of creation as well. It comes down as one and then splits into 2 in this universe, because polarity is the mathematics of this universe, and it's just the inverse of the other, and it's a teacher. Okay, so darkness isn't bad. It all plays a role. And once you can see that and see, but become sovereign and not let it influence you in any way, it's here for your growth. It's here to mirror back the same teachings from a mirror inverse perspective. Okay? That being said, that's the organic darkness. All right? And it plays a role, and it's part of this creation as well. Okay? But then we take a look at the infection. All right, now this is something that doesn't fit into organic creation. This is something that is AI that was created in another universe that literally devoured all organic creation, and it's found a way to pop into our universe and start to infect it as well. And it has affected many of these groups of negative beings, and the ones that are, tied into our government and running this show and all this stuff. The infection is there. And I've interfaced with this stuff before, and this goes back to like the fallen Elohim and all this stuff, and it's literally soulless. It just wants to devour. It's not here to teach you. It has no heart. It doesn't have a soul heart signature. It doesn't give a fuck about anything. It just wants to devour. Okay, it is pure evil. Okay, it's a creation within a creation. It's not created from creator source. So yes, it's part of the oneness, but it's not organic. It's an infection that we're trying to eradicate. Okay. And why is this allowed to exist? Well, I think it's just this whole game is being played on level extra hard. And that's how I see it. So that being said, we got to play this game on extra level hard too. You know, it doesn't have to be hard, but you can't coast through this thing. It's going to take your focus. It's going to take self-realization, and it's going to take that love and that light to. That was the biggest weapon, love. The true Christ frequency, the true Christos Guardians, that golden light, that is your biggest weapon. And this is the keys to ascension. So that being said, I mean, if you want to be stuck in a box with dogma of a religion that has been altered by ETs that don't have your best interests in mind, that is your free will choice. But I would suggest that you do your research and you look into things. And you become the observer and look at the broader perspective. Okay? Anyway, this is my video for the day. I love you guys, and see you soon.